Formula 1 arrives at Imola with the news that there is no longer the FIA governing body within Formula 1. They are no longer governing the sport. Key bosses concluded in a meeting that the FIA are no longer fit enough to govern the sport. Formula 1 bosses have been taking multiple fan surveys over the past couple of months to see how their sport is going and what they would do to improve it. A lot of fans' responses was all to do with the FIA and how they were treating the sport and how they were trying to bring a lot more fairness within this actual sport, and a lot of people were finding out that the FIA just were not actually helping and were just making things worse and, more importantly, more confusing. This then hit another breaking point at the previous round of the British Grand Prix, in which Tom was disqualified from the British Grand Prix qualifying. This was all due to an incident which happened at the previous round at the Dutch Grand Prix, in which Tom spun around, lost control of his car, and then in which Valtteri Bottas, Sam and Rees all collided with each other and were ending up out of the session, apart from Tom, who had damage to his front wing only. Now, this is where it gets really complicated. The FIA decided not to pull out the red flag as soon as Tom had spun it, and that of course meant that no other driver was slowing down. And from this point onwards then, instead of blaming their own selves for not enforcing the red flag and enforcing the marshals to do so, but they decided to say that everything was all Tom's fault and excludes him from qualifying. People are finding this very, very frustrating. They find it that the FIA was no longer governing the sport, but in fact fixing the sport in terms of race fixing. And this is something that a lot of fans had had enough of, and there was a massive spark of outrage on social media, with many fans attempting to boycott this next Grand Prix. This is something that Formula 1 cannot afford, as it's definitely been on the rise as of the past few years, and it's time to move on. So, what's happening then? Well, Ross Brawn has announced the brand new F1 GB, with key staff members being hired for the role. This stands for the Formula 1 governing body. Multiple team bosses are delighted with this news and feel like Formula 1 can go into a new direction without the FIA involved. However, there are lots of people that fear that this could well be the end of Formula 1, as of course Formula 1 has been key with the FIA to obviously govern this sport. Now all of a sudden they're going to be creating their own governing body. This could go one way or another. This could either go really, really well, or this could end up being a complete disaster. But as things all stand, the FIA is no longer. With all the drama coming from the breaking news heading into this weekend, what's actually been happening on the track? Well, it's been Red Bull and Porsche that have been leading the way in practice, which is a little bit of a surprise considering the past few practice sessions have belonged to Mercedes. Ferrari, meanwhile, are way off the pace, with major setup issues costing them a lot of time on the circuit. Another man that's been losing a lot of time on the circuit is Tom, especially in the first sector. He's unable to get the car working the way that he wants to. Tom has been admitting that driving around this circuit has been very, very difficult, especially in the first sector where he really does like to ride the curbs a lot, but the car is too unsettled to do that, which means he's having to make a compromise and losing too much time. BMW have been working very, very hard on some aero upgrades to bring over to this race weekend. BMW are committed to their package and are looking to try and make it even better as the season goes along, and hopefully these aero upgrades can just improve the efficiency just that little bit. Audi are another team also working on a few little development pieces, one of them being their front wing. Audi have identified that their front wing is definitely the biggest drawback to their car, and it's just not the way that they wanted to, and it's not channeling the air from the front wing to the rest of the car the way that they want to, and they're still continuing to do more learning in a hope that they can get a better front wing put onto that car for the remainder of the season. But that is it for the race news. Let's get straight into qualifying and the race for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on guys, it is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. We've got the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix for you guys, and this is a track that's definitely going to be a struggle for myself. It's one that I'm very weak at, but we just have to manage that and get on with things. If you end up enjoying today's video, drop it a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's get straight into the action where we go for a little bit of a spin, getting a little bit too much power on the exit of the last corner there, and unfortunately for us, that is a awful first attempt, but we will go around, recharge the battery, and try again, and we go very deep into the first Ravazza, then into the second one, while that time around we actually didn't lose the back end, so technically it was a better run for us through there, but unfortunately our benchmark is by far the slowest, and as we're going to head into our final runs now, we are currently slowest. So we really need to put in a good lap here in order to try and see ourselves push further up the table. And as you can see, at the moment through the two Ravazzas, we gain about 0.6 of a second, which we needed to get. So where's this lap time going to put us in comparison? Unfortunately, it's going to be right at the back. So here we are on the grid for the start of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And unfortunately, we are starting a little bit further back than we probably would have wanted. But this is the track that we do tend to struggle at. So for the first time this season, I think, we're going to go a different way with strategy. And we're going to start on the hard tyres and then go to the mediums and see if that strategy could bring us back into play somewhat. So hopefully we can do just that. But here we go then, ready for the start of this race. We've got the 5 red lights on, and eventually they will go off and we can get racing here, but it's not a good start from us though. The hard tyres not really giving us the grip that we need off the line, getting swarmed as you can see there, down into 19th place already from all of that, and we've not even got through the first corner yet, so we'll try and get through there now. The Aston Martin there giving us a good old squeeze, and as we go on to the exit here, we're still in 19th place, but as we swoop through now, we've got the second Aston Martin car here that's got better traction than ourselves, and all of a sudden we go from, well, P15 down to last. So it's been a shocking start for us. We've been going towards the hairpin here. Front wing damage for some of the cars in front there, which is definitely going to cost them some time, but for us though, we can swoop around the outside and we gain 3 places from that hairpin. So all of a sudden now, we've done a net drop of 2 places, which is still bad, but it's not the end of the world. At least we're still in the race and have actually a fully functioning front wing, unlike one of the BMWs that no longer has a fully functioning front wing. So we make our way now down in towards the chicane here for the first time here. Try and make a late lunge here on the BMW of Mason Wood and getting the job done on Mason Wood. Lovely overtake there and putting us up into 16th place. A very unorthodox place to go for an overtake there, but it's worked out and we can press on our way now as we go in towards the first of the 2 Ravazzas. And one of the cars in front of us is going to box, and that's going to be Nick de Vries, because he had the damaged front wing. So overall, at the end of the first lap of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, we get ourselves into a net no loss, no gain situation. Having a look at the 5 light sequence though, you can see here that as we got off the line, we just didn't get off the line compared to everybody else. Really struggled to get the power down, and as we go in towards the first few corners, I opted for the inside line, but it was just a bit too risky. This is on board with Oscar Piastri, who's got a very nice start here versus Daniel Ricciardo and Pato O'Ward, but unfortunately he just gets sandwiched out there, has to back off of the throttle, but eventually as they make their way in towards turns 1 and 2, Ricciardo and O'Ward here are going to get caught in their own troubles, but eventually for Pato it doesn't work out. For Reese though, it definitely does. He gets a much better start than our Red Bull pole sitter Stoffel van Dorn, who actually starts this race on the hard compound tyres. And as you can see, he makes his way through up into the lead of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Job done for Reese on that one, and he is now leading this race. And with the medium compound tyres in hand, hopefully if he can get out of that DRS quickly, he'll be able to pull away and build an advantage. Going on here, that was Sergio Perez there, battling with one of the Jaguars who also had Pierre Gasly caught in all of that. And we're not going to get caught in all of this though. We're just going to come straight through on all of them here and go down the inside into the Ravazza on the second Jaguar driver there. As further up the road now on the same lap here, we've got Lando Norris under some pressure now as Lewis Hamilton and Sam are battling away here. Sam gets squeezed out there on the inside. Hamilton desperately trying to overtake rather than go defensive as they go into the first corner. Norris has gone deep. He's gone too deep there, and into the gravel goes Lando Norris, and he's going to put himself on track. There's contact further back though as they're all battling for position, but we've also gained a free place from all of that. But Lando Norris there getting it all wrong at turn 1 and getting his race in a real mess now, because he's down in around about 16th, 17th place, because we were in 13th, I think it was, before we made the overtake on Norris. So Norris went past all, or got overtaken by all the other drivers there. So for Lando, that's a really bad problem there. That's probably actually put him at the back of the field now, bar Nick de Vries, who had to box for a new front wing. Although Lewis Hamilton here is under a lot of pressure at this stage of the Grand Prix, because he's got the 2 McLarens, and also I believe he had the other Ferrari of Piastri on his tail. As for us though, we're up in 11th place now after all the dramas going on, and we're going to make that P10 now with a move down the inside here on Sergio Perez into the Ravazzas, and we're back through and up into the points, funnily enough, making a lot of overtakes in the Ravazzas, and we get DRS to go with it. But for Sergio Perez, though, he's not backing down from this one yet. Not quite happy that he got overtaken by ourselves. Coming back at us now. We've got DRS. So does Sergio Perez. Perez putting a lot more energy into this one. And I'm talking about his ERS, not, you know, actual all-out energy. But as you can see, we stay in front of Sergio Perez. Into the points now. Next up the road is one of the Audis of Valtteri Bottas, his teammate Leclerc, just one position higher. As you can see, that is Sam, not Norris, sending himself into the fastest lap of the race so far. We've pulled away now from Sergio Perez, and at this stage of the race now, lap 7, the hard tyres, as we get very close there to Bottas, the hard tyres are just starting to really get towards matching range of these drivers. But before, just after, we've overtaken Valtteri Bottas there. For the first time this season, we have a safety car that has come out, and that surprised me. I did go back on the footage to have a look at what caused the safety car. I can confirm to you that nothing got the safety car deployed. It just fancied coming out. It was obviously, you know, bored. And it is a little bit of fun. So with that being said, we're going to get back racing once again. Jumping the gun here on Charles Leclerc. But unfortunately, I've jumped in a bit too early because we can't overtake until the start-finish line. And I was a bit too far in front of Charles Leclerc before we got into illegal overtaking territory. So now, all of a sudden, my amazing geniusness of taking on the Audi, well, hasn't worked. We go into the first few corners, and there is a prime example of how much better and faster the AIs are in Sector 1, because they're already just blitzing ahead of me now. So on board here with, I believe this is Nick De Vries now, and there's a lot of drivers further back here that have gone for an alternate strategy and have pitted for the first time in this race, one of those being Sergio Perez on a fresh set of mediums, gets forced very wide there by De Vries, but that's actually helped Nick out because he can get back on with his race here. As we're on board here with Sam now on lap 11 of the Grand Prix. He spun round to the chicane there, and he was chasing Lewis Hamilton, and what was turning into a very strong performance from the McLaren driver has just gone spinning around, and that is going to put him at the back of the field with his safety car coming out. That's also another position gain for ourselves, and one of our main championship rivals, well, pretty much putting himself in the mud there. But that is awful stuff there from Sam, reminiscent of Charles Leclerc in the real-life Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, just getting too aggressive with the curbs. Meanwhile, everyone else on track is getting aggressive with each other. Specifically, this is Nick De Vries and Carlos Sainz. Sainz, another man, I think, that has stopped for a set of tyres during the safety car. He gets better traction, though, than Nick De Vries, covers off the inside line heavily in towards the next section, and eventually he is in front of the BMW. But the other BMW of Mason Wood is having a good time of things as things stand, and breezes past Valtteri Bottas in the Audi. Good move there from Mason Wood. He gets himself up another position on lap 13, and there is ourselves in all of that. In fact, that was actually directly behind us. I can confirm that the battle was for P7 on the road. As you would have seen, though, someone that's not on the road anymore is Nick De Vries. His race is run and done. Unfortunately, a pit stop that cost him with front wing damage. Eventually got his race reignited with the safety car. Eventually, well, he's out of the race. But here we go then, the battle at the front here. This is Van Dorn versus Rees versus Hamilton now as they make their way down in towards the first corner. Van Dorn goes to the inside line. Rees tries to hold it around the outside line. Does just do that and manages to stay in front here of Stoffel Van Dorn as they make their way through up in towards the end of the first sector. Lewis Hamilton now on lap 17 here when they've just come out of the pits here. Hamilton on the hards. He's got Piastri behind him on the hards compound tyres. Not for much longer though. Piastri says thank you very much, I'll have some of that, and gets in front of Lewis Hamilton in this Grand Prix here on lap 18. So all of a sudden, Lewis Hamilton having a little bit of trouble after the pit stop. One man that's not coming to the pits is Van Dorn, because Stoffel is on the hard compound tyres. Another man that's on the hard compound tyres is me. We're also on them, and we're now coming into the pits to go onto the medium compound tyres to get to the end of the race. That is the plan. We've gone long and we're going on to the hards, and that is how things are going to rock and also roll. And whilst we're in the pit stops here, I can confirm that whilst watching the replay cams of the man in front here, Stoffel Van Dorn, you can see that he's got a number 1 on there. Now obviously Van Dorn is not number 1, he's actually number 2. I can confirm that whilst I was actually going ahead and rebuilding all of these mods for this F1 journey after the car model is updated, it turns out that I accidentally put the number 2 number on the number 33 section of Red Bull's numbers. It's getting confusing and I can't even say what I'm saying. But I'll tell you what is actually happening is the Audi there of Valtteri Bottas, or Charles Leclerc that is, sorry, got very close to us. In fact, we made contact in towards the first chicane as we came out of the pits there. Pato O'Ward, though, is the man on that two-stop strategy, as far as I'm aware, is actually also going to get involved on the actors. Perez now comes out in a heap of traffic there. Both the Audis, actually contact there between Perez and Norris and all of that. Norris makes his way through, recovering, but he's still going to have to make another pit stop in this race. Lewis Hamilton now is going up against Oscar Piastri now in the Ferrari. Hamilton breezes past him with some DRS, and he is up into third place now in this Grand Prix, back on the podium, and that is Van Dorn just up ahead. Here's Callum Ilott in the Jaguar. Nice to see him driving along nicely. Unfortunately, though, he's got a big train of cars behind him that have all got DRS here, and that's very close there between Lando Norris and also Carlos Sainz. Good defending, though, from Callum Ilott initially, but unfortunately, it's not going to work out. They're really going to go for it here. In fact, Ilott might just hold it here. Great defending from Ilott. I take it all back. He's done a fantastic job there. Ignore what I just said a minute ago. I completely underestimated what Ilott was able to do. And here's a man that's capable of doing something here. This is Van Dorn now versus Reese, and this is going to go in towards Van Dorn's favour here. DRS moving left and right, desperate to try and find a way through, but this is the way that the tides have turned now, as Piastri there has a look on Lewis Hamilton. This is where the tides have turned now for Reese and Van Dorn, because Van Dorn is on the medium tyres now, Reese on the hards, and that safety car earlier on in the race just completely wiped out Van Dorn's gap there. But I just want to confirm that Van Dorn will have the number 2 for the next race. As I said, I put it on number 33, forgetting that Max Verstappen's actual number in the files is number 1. I put it on number 33 by accident, which is why it says number 1, but it's not that case. Anyway, for us though, we're struggling in this race, don't really have a lot of pace right now, and Pato O'Ward has been going a lot faster than us in this race, so I decided to let him through, hoping that if I can stick in his DRS, maybe he could catch up to Piastri and Hamilton. They're not that far up the road. There they are. And if they battle, then we may be able to get onto the back of them. But apart from that, O'Ward has had a lot more pace than me. But in this stage of the Grand Prix, you can see now that we've got the DRS here with our medium compound tyres, catching up to Pato, getting closer to Pato as we make our way in towards the first corner. Pato goes deep, makes contact with the car. We've gone round, and Pato O'Ward is carrying on through. But all of a sudden now, we've gone backwards. We've lit up the rear tyres here, desperate not to try and make contact, but we've done just that, and we're just trying to get out of the way of everything. Lando Norris is out of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. It's a disaster for us though. The safety car's got to come out again. It does come out again, but what an awful set of corners that we have just had there. First is Pato O'Ward, and here it is now on the live feeds here. So let's have a little look then. So we get the DRS here on Pato O'Ward now down the straight. We go towards the outside line here, even going onto the grass here. And look at that, Pato O'Ward just cuts the corner and just goes straight into the side of us. And at this point here, I'm then trying to get back onto track, and I'm then doing donuts at this point, desperate to try and, well, rejoin. I've then hit one of the Audis there, and as I'm desperately just trying to get onto the track here, I'm too eager. I've lit up the rear tyres. My tyres have overheated then on the rear, and I've unfortunately have had Lando Norris come at me. But there you can see, look, he just cuts the corner, and then he actually jinks right when it's a left-handed turn. And realistically, unfortunately, I'm putting the blame on to Pato O'Ward. You can let me know what you think of that crash, but unfortunately, that does mean I need to come in for a pit stop. I've got a damaged front wing, but more important, well, more worse than that, should we say, I've got a damaged floor and I've got damaged side pods. So I'm already I'm just stuffed at this point here, but we're coming in now. We've got a fresh set of soft compound tyres to go onto the car. So all of a sudden now, the only benefit that I've got is that there is a safety car, but there's a lot of damage that I've suffered on this car, and it's going to be a very, very rough recovery back to even trying to get a point at this rate, because as things stand, well, we're not even going to get a point. So, yeah, let's try and see what we can do. I guess we're coming out of the pits now. I'll show it in just a second for you guys, the damage that's on the car. We don't have that many laps either left in this race. There you can see, look, there's the damaged floor. In particular, we've got massive floor damage, and then our side pod has also taken a whack from that, from the damage and the crash with Lando Norris. But we are last at the moment, 17 out of 17. The safety car's coming in again, and now it's just a question of just hoping and praying that we can try and get into the points. Let's see what we can do though. Back underway though for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Severely damaged car, but we've got fresh soft compound tyres with a lot of the field on old hard tyres. So hopefully we can balance out the damage that we've got and try and go for it here now. Ready for this race now as we go in towards the first few corners. Let's see what the performance is like. It's still not great, but we've not been good through these first set of chicanes the whole race long. Bit of battling going on here between one of the Audis. I think this was Charles Leclerc. Whichever Audi made contact with me has also had to box here, but we're going to go around the outside into the hairpin, just like we've done every other time in this race. And as you can see now, getting the power down, putting the battery to good use, and that was Charles Leclerc in all of that was getting involved in that one. Now as we make our way through in towards the heart of the middle sector here, we can see Leclerc is going to come back at us now, but this time around, unlike Pato O'Ward, he actually backs out of it on the inside line there and gives us the racing room that we deserve as we now make our way in towards the chicane here. Going to dive it down inside on George Russell. Give Russell the space. Oh, look at that. Russell gives us some racing room. Up at the 15th place now. We've got 5 overtakes left to get into the points with 2 and a bit laps to go in this Grand Prix. And we'll get another one here. And again, in this hairpin, seemed to work quite well actually, outbraking ourselves through there. Get the power down versus Sam. And now as you can see here with the hard compound tyres on the McLaren, he'll go for it again up the inside, but we'll just about hold it in there. Go a little bit deep though through in towards this section. Now as we go here and towards this right-hander, this is where Charles Leclerc backed out of it that time as well. Sam just backing out of it, not getting involved in that. Sam really also getting screwed over in this race. I'm not sure if he opted for the... No, he didn't. I remember now. He spun, didn't he? So his race has really just been ruined via his own mistakes here as we now catch up to the Aston Martin, getting a better drag here as we head down in towards the Ravazzas now. Can we go around the outside here of, I think this is Colton Herta? Yes, we can on Colton. And now there's 3 places to get in just 2 laps now of this Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix to salvage a point in this race. It's definitely doable, but we're running out of battery, especially in this race now. And in fact, I'm having to use more of it because here comes the Aston and also Sam, but there's another Aston out of our way. And with just 1 more lap to go now, we still need to get 2 places, and this is going to be difficult because we've got DRS here, but unfortunately, so does the Renault. I think that is Gasly up ahead, and as we go on to the final lap of the Grand Prix, unfortunately, it's not going to work out for us. It's going to be a no-point scoring finish for us here today, but for Stoffel Vandoorne and the Red Bull, he takes his first victory in his Red Bull. I think it's his first win in Red Bull, and congratulations to Stoffel Vandoorne and to Red Bull. They had a quick car all weekends. It was very much, they've had a lot of hype for having a quick car in practice, but never executing it in the race. But on this occasion, that is the case. They started the race on the hard compound tyres. They got fortunate with the safety car on both occasions because Reese was ahead on both occasions. But for Stoffel Vandoorne though, when it mattered and when the luck came his way, he took advantage of it and he wins the race. So congratulations to Stoffel Vandoorne. Reese, unfortunately, will be disappointed to finish in second, but crucially, finishing in second with myself out of the points is definitely going to help close him back up in the Drivers' Championship standings. Nevertheless, though, you've got to give your hats up to Stoffel Vandoorne for a sensational race performance here today, and he is taking the victory for Red Bull. Their first victory of the season and their first victory for quite some time, actually. Reese manages to cross the line in P2. Disappointed he'll be after that one. Of course, multiple safety cars really actually hampered his lead and played into Vandoorne's strategy. But at the end of the day, you've got to settle with where you were finishing. Oscar Piastri finishes in third for Ferrari, once again getting himself onto the podium with Lewis Hamilton claiming 4th place at the checkered flag. Pato O'Ward, the man that made contact with us during the Grand Prix, finishes in 5th, just ahead of Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull in P6. Valtteri Bottas claims some crucial points for Audi, finishing in P7, with Carlos Sainz finishing in 8th place for the second Porsche driver. Mason Woods also critical, getting more points on the board for BMW. That's going to be massive in their battle with Aston Martin at the bottom of the championship. And Callum Ilott also grabbing some points for Jaguar as well. The man with the fastest lap is Oscar Piastri. He set 1 minute 13.959. Looking at the second half of the table now, Pierre Gasly finishes in 11th for Renault. Disappointing weekend for Renault, as we'll see, but a decent performance from Gasly considering he's been struggling a lot this season. Sam, a man that went on the 2-stop strategy after his spin earlier in the Grand Prix, never really recovered from it and finishes in 12th. Colton Herta 13th for Aston Martin, ahead of ourselves only good enough for P14. At the end of the day, even though we had a fresh set of soft compound tyres on, the damage to the side pods and the floor really just hurt the performance massively, and we weren't able to make the gains. Theo Pourchaire finishes in 15th for the second Aston Martin car. We were sandwiched in between them. Charles Leclerc finishes 16th for Audi, disappointing race for him. George Russell is 17th for Jaguar. And then there are 3 DNFs all in succession, with Lando Norris, Nick De Vries and Daniel Ricciardo all failing to see the checkered flag. Taking a look then at the Drivers' Championship now and seeing how that changes things. Well, Lewis Hamilton is now at the top of the championship, well, he was in the last race, but he has now got a 13-point lead at the top of the championship. Of course, that was only 1 point in the last race. That has now been extended over ourselves. Reese is clawing himself closer into the championship battle now. He is on 111 points, should I say, 37 points back in the championship. It's a long distance, but if those 2 teams, Porsche and McLaren, can really up their performance, then they may be in with a shout. Then we're going to be looking at Oscar Piastri, who is on 77 points, and obviously Sam, I forgot to mention, speaking of McLaren and Porsche, is on 105 points, 43 points back on the championship. It was a lot closer for Sam, but again, 2 non-scoring points finishes in a row, I think. Oh no, it's just this one. Yeah, starting to fall back. Piastri, comfortable in 5th in the championship, ahead of Sainz, who is 6th on 60 points. Lando Norris just behind with 57 points, and then Stoffel Vandoorne moves up to 8th in the championship with 50 points to his name. And Daniel Ricciardo and Charles Leclerc dropped down a position each in the championship. Both of them didn't score a point here today. The next race is the F1 Journey Austrian Grand Prix. And then looking at the Constructors' Championship to see how that swings. Well, as you can see, there have been plenty of swings. Mercedes, first of all, we're top of the championship still on 283 points, ahead of Porsche, who are on 169 points. The gap between the Mercedes and Porsche has closed down a little bit, thanks to Reese and Sainz getting points. Only Hamilton got points, but Reese actually outscored, so there's a slight differential on that front. Ferrari, though, have actually jumped in front of McLaren in 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship now. Ferrari on 134 points, McLaren on 131 points. Ferrari are definitely in the ascendancy at the moment, but we expect if Sam can get the form back, that could potentially change around. Red Bull now sit very comfortable in 5th place in the championship. They're on 90 points and they are 41 points behind McLaren, and they are 50 points clear of the next team, Audi. So pretty much in a land of their own. Speaking of Audi, they're 6th in the championship. They jump in front of Renault thanks to Bottas's points today and a double non-scoring points finish for Renault. Jaguars remain on 25 points, or 8th in the championship. They remain on 25 points. And then at the bottom of the championship, BMW are up to 3 points, and Aston Martin are on 2, and they now are bottom of the championship. But that is it for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Let's get straight into the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers have to say after this race. Taking a look at the post-race notebook now, Vandoorne wins the Grand Prix for Red Bull. Finally, Red Bull get their first win of the season and are finding some form of momentum, with Reese settling in for P2 and Piastri taking P3. Reese unfortunately was left disappointed despite finishing in P2, as both safety cars definitely hurt his Grand Prix. At the start of the race, Vandoorne was on the hard tyres with Reese on the mediums. With Reese being able to jump Vandoorne off the line, he was able to pull away and actually get quite a decent advantage, but the safety car came out and that advantage was completely wiped out. And it was only a few laps later that Reese had to pit then to go onto the hard tyres. Now, despite the fact that Reese actually stayed in front of Vandoorne whilst on the hard tyres, there was a little bit of a scrap going on between the pair of them. The second safety car came out and gave Vandoorne another opportunity to take the win on his medium tyres versus Reese on the hards, and that's exactly what he did. Christian Horner was shocked that Red Bull actually won a race this season. He admitted that the Red Bull car has just been absolutely awful this year, and they've got a lot of things wrong, but to see the team manage to get a race victory this weekend and just be extremely competitive was definitely something that Horner was extremely proud of. And Tom has blasted Pato O'Ward for his reckless move into turn 1. Of course, the lap prior to the incident, Tom was struggling for pace, and Pato O'Ward was definitely closing in on him, and he decided to let him through. But after realising one lap later that he was back on Pato O'Ward's tail, he decided to opt to go for the move, but in which O'Ward skipped over the curb and went into the side of him, causing Tom to spin sideways, and as Tom tried to rejoin the circuit, lit up the rear tyres and then couldn't get them under control, in which it meant a concertina effect of damaging his front wing and then in the end damaging his entire car with contact with Lando Norris. But that is it for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. If you ended up enjoying the video, drop a like, subscribe if you're new around here as well, and I'll catch you guys for the next one at the Austrian Grand Prix. Take care all.